Hello and welcome to In the Field, a live stream series from Fujifilm, South Africa. My name is Paul Choy and I'm a Fujifilm ex-photographer. And every week I'm joined by a different guest from around the world as we explore a behind-the-scenes look into their photography and their craft. And this week I'm delighted to be joined by landscape photographer and popular YouTuber, Thomas Heaton. So Tom, welcome.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
And for all of those who are joining us live, feel free to leave your questions in the comments and I'll put those to Tom. And those of you who are watching us later, well, you're very welcome as well. I hope you enjoy our discussion.
Yeah, let me answer all the questions about the hat first of all, because I never wear a hat indoors, but we have got to the point where I have no choice but to wear a hat because, as we all know, the barbershops are closed and what is underneath this hat is a monstrosity. So please, no questions about the hat.
But the thing is, I feel like you're still at amateur status because you're just covering it with a hat. We're at the stage where we've just given up and cutting our own hair now in the mirror with a blunt pair of scissors.
I'll never be at that stage. No. It's just, I'll have a ponytail before then.
We just go with the hat instead.
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Okay, well, perhaps the best place to start is at the beginning. Perhaps you could give us an insight into your journey into photography. What first made you pick up a camera?
Oh boy. This is a question. This is probably the same for many people. I have a very specific memory, there was a very specific moment in time, and that was when I was in school. And it was the last year of school and I had no idea about what I wanted to do with my life. No idea. And I sat down with my English teacher and she said, what about being a mechanic? And I'm like, oh, yeah, mechanic, I could do that. And then everything she said, I just sort of nodded along. And I was leaving school in 6 months and I had no idea with what I was going to, was I going to go to college? Was I going to get a job, an apprenticeship? I just didn't know. And I wasn't very good in school. And then she said, what about media studies? And I kid you not, I had to ask what media studies was. I was like, what's media studies? I'd never heard that before. And she went, oh, television. I was like, oh, I like television. And then I ended up just saying, yeah, I'll do media studies. So I went to college, like 3 months or 6 months later, doing a media studies course. I can't remember the exact course it was, some BTEC course. Anyway, the part of that was photography, and there was a dark room, there was cameras, there was film, and man, talk about a creative outlet. I mean, talk about I was always devastated that I couldn't draw, because my nana, she was a fantastic artist, unbelievable painter, and I never had that. I couldn't paint. I tried. She tried to teach me. I couldn't do it. And then when I discovered I could take a camera, and well, that was it. My life changed. So that was it. That was the moment.
I'm interested that your English teacher, just randomly threw out mechanic. Was there a reason for this? Was there at least some background, or just looked at you and said, yeah, looks like a mechanic to me?
No, I think I wanted to work. I think I mentioned something about working outside. I don't know. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But, you go through all these vocations. I think I literally just think she had a list. She's going, this, no, this, yeah, this, maybe. And then when she said media, I was like, ooh, it's creative, So, yeah, very good.
And I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to, because, again, I'm like you. I love the idea of being creative, but I try and pick up a pencil and a piece of paper and try and draw anything, and it always comes out looking like a stick person. Whereas the first time I picked up a camera, I realized that this was my opportunity to get that creative release that we look for.
Yeah, exactly. I find that with a pencil and a paper, what I can see in my mind's eye, I cannot transfer to the paper. But with a camera, what I see in my mind's eye, there's a much better chance that I can then transfer that onto paper. So yeah, it's very cool. Oh, I think you've muted yourself, Paul. Oh, the joys of live streaming. Yeah, I can hear you now. There's a big microphone with a line through it.
It's just to give you that momentary feeling when you realize that you're all by yourself.
I did think that. I thought I was going to
as a
start reading a
landscape
monologue.
photographer, surely you're used to that feeling of being all by yourself, because that's one of the things I'm interested in, is that we all have this creative outlook. We all grab our camera for a creative outlook, but we all have so many different styles and so many different appeal to us. And for you, that's predominantly landscape photography. What is it about landscape that really intrigues you?
Well, I mean, the thing with landscape photography is actually it was my sort of love of the outdoors that came first. You know, I would always be out hiking and walking and just generally exploring and wanting to be just outside. And finding a camera sort of allowed me to maybe capture these sort of rare moments that you would see, you know, a nice sunrise, a nice sunset, a beautiful tree set against the mountains, you know, the typical kind of stuff. So I just, in a way, I just wanted to kind of show off, you know. So over the years, that develops into, well, you know, into more of a passion, I suppose. But I just wanted to capture and share what I was seeing, and that's why I've never been massively into post-processing, because I always think the reason I'm out there with a camera is to capture that decisive moment, rather than capture something and then create that later on in software. So I always think if you get a really good display from nature, then that is your Photoshop. You know, nature's doing all the hard work for you. You just need to do the usual tweaks of contrast and levels and stuff. So yeah, it was just all about engaging and connecting with the outdoors.
100%, and 100% get it right in camera. We use post-production to perhaps enhance, but we try and get it right in the camera. And you know, obviously, as a landscape photographer, especially somebody that might find themselves hiking out into the middle of nowhere or whatever, what you carry with you surely is vitally important. You have to make sure that you've got the right equipment for what you need at the time. So if you were heading out, is there anything, what's the equipment that has to be in your camera bag every time you go out?
A camera, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, a funny one, a tripod. Yeah, a lot of people just, for me, 90% or 95% of my photography, I have to have a tripod, and that usually means carrying a big, heavy lump on my back for several miles, many miles sometimes. In fact, because I'm on YouTube, that's usually 2 tripods. But no, I mean, my photography is pretty simple, like nothing fancy. You know, maybe a couple of filters, a polarizer, a lens or 2, whatever. I'm happy to work with one lens. A camera and a tripod, that's it. But it's all about being comfortable. So making sure I've got the right clothing for the weather conditions, making sure I've got food and water. Because as soon as you start getting hungry and thirsty and cold, guess what? You're not going to want to make images. You're not going to want to hang around for 2 hours waiting for the sunset or whatever. So yeah, it's being comfortable, it's being safe. I usually like to take a GPS so I know where I am, but also so I can tag locations if I see something that has potential. So landscape photography is just really simple. You know, you could take one zoom lens, a camera, a tripod, and you'd be set. If you want to take a few filters, that's also good, but not always necessary.
I think, I don't know about you, but certainly in my own photography career, I've discovered very much more of a less is more approach works for me. When I first set out trying to find my creative style, trying to find my personal style, I used to carry an awful lot of equipment, because what I realized at the time was more equipment made me a better photographer. Of course, over time, you realize, no, more equipment doesn't make you a better photographer, but learning how to use that equipment and learning how to find your own way of expressing yourself does. And for me now, I very much take a less is more approach. I'm usually down to a couple of bodies and a couple of lenses, and that's it. So I definitely share your feelings on keeping it simple, and that way there is more room in the bag to carry a sweater or a raincoat or something when we get caught out. But I mean, we're chatting about landscape photography. Perhaps the best thing to do is have a quick look at some of your photographs, and maybe I could bring a few in and we could have a look. And I'd love to hear if you've got any stories behind the photographs. For example, where was this photograph captured?
Well, this photograph is one of my recent favorite images, because this is about 300 yards that way. I can see this from my window, so it's outside my house. But the thing is, because you, me, and I'm sure lots of people watching this have been on lockdown for the past year. We're on our third lockdown now, and we've been locked down for 4 months, and it's been horrendous. It's been hell on earth. But one thing it has given us is the opportunity to re-engage with our local surroundings. And this is my local beach. And it's one of those places where I'd shoot once or twice, and then I'd be kind of done with it, because I live here, I see it every day, I walk on it twice a day, every day, and it feels like old news, kind of. But now, all of a sudden, this is the only flipping thing I can photograph, because it's the only thing that I can walk to, because you're not supposed to leave your town. So this is now the prime location. And all of these rocks, this beach is usually a sandy beach, like sand, nothing else, which is nice. I like my minimal stuff, but it's not always that interesting. But we had some quite severe storms over the winter, and the storms washed away all the sand and revealed all of the rocks beneath the sand, which is what you can see here. And as the sun rises, oh mate, just the way the light catches the rocks, and the tidal pools, the reflection of the lighthouse there in the distance, it's all, the beach, it was like waking up to a new location. It was a completely different beach to what it was the week before, because of these storms. And I photographed this with the Fuji GX617 panoramic film camera, actually using Fuji Velvia 50, which is why we have those rich colors. And that camera has given me nothing but trouble since the day.
I was going to say, and Velvia 50 as well, with the great, lovely film, but notoriously difficult to shoot. Very difficult.
That's why when I took this picture, I was convinced that it wasn't really going to turn out, because this camera, when I first bought it, it developed a fault straight away with a sticky shutter. So all of my images were just completely burnt out, because I would take the shot, think, oh, nice one, I've got that. And then I'd, walking around, packing my bag, all the while my camera was still exposing, because the shutter never closed. I was like, oh man. So that was pretty bad. Anyway, so I got the camera back from the repair shop. I think this was my first shoot with that camera after I got it back from repair. And I hadn't taken any good images with that camera up until this point. And then I went out this morning, loaded a roll of Velvia 50, and almost the whole roll came out well. I've got a few other images from this morning. And it's just, the thing I love about that camera is that you have to pay attention to everything that you're photographing, right? It's not like digital where you frame your image and I'll fix that later, and that'll be okay. You can see your histogram, you can see the screen. You're looking at your screen, you're not looking at the land. Whereas with this camera, you're looking at the landscape, you're not looking at your camera. So you have to pay attention to every tone, every highlight, every shadow, every rock that's in your frame. The timing of the light has to be perfect, because you only get 4 images per roll of film. So all of this thing basically makes you way more engaged with the landscape. So it's a far more enjoyable process. And then, of course, you think you've failed, or I do anyway. So when you get the film back from the lab and you see that it's come out and you've not blown your highlights and you've got the color and you've got the shadow detail, Velvia has about 4 stops of dynamic range. So it is difficult to work with. And here's a funny thing. I think with this image, I had a 2-stop graduated filter on, right? But this camera is a rangefinder camera, so you can't actually see what you're photographing. So you have to put the filter on the lens, and it's just a guess. It's like, okay, yeah, that's about halfway down the lens. Like, you can't see it being placed, So I was amazed that these images came out, and it's all about practice and getting to know your equipment and getting a bit of self-confidence. And this is the result, and I'm really happy with this image, because this is proof that you can learn and develop. Yeah.
I mean, my main camera for assignments is an X Pro 3, and that has the the flippy out screen on the back, the hidden LCD, which a lot of people dislike. But for me, what I like about it is that it takes away the distraction. I've got the LCD away. I don't tend to chimp my photographs anyway, but it's one less temptation. But that's with a modern digital camera with a beautiful screen. So what you're doing with the GX617 is going even a step further. You're taking all the distractions away to really focus on just the scene in front of you. I mean, you're just doing hard work for yourself. Could it be argued?
Well, it's all about having a challenge and a sense of achievement. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I was paid to take photographs for a client, I would never use this camera. I'd use my GFX. But when I'm just shooting for myself, I kind of sometimes with a digital camera, it can feel a bit disconnected. You look at your histogram. Everything's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. And what I find is I'm not engaging with the landscape as much, which might not make sense. But when you shoot with this camera, for example, or any film camera, like you just have to think about everything, like every highlight, every shadow, every position of every stone, every rock, because it's so difficult to manipulate the images afterwards, unlike a digital raw file, for example. And yeah, it is hard, and you are making hard work for yourself, but it's a craft, and you learn your craft, and the confidence and the self-development that you get from challenging yourself with a really old film camera and 4 stops of dynamic range, the satisfaction is incredible. And another thing as well, it takes about a week or 2 before you get the images back. So that period between pressing the shutter and seeing the image, that allows you to be far more objective with the images. So you tend to, sometimes you can take an image, get really excited, put it on your computer, love it, share it. And then a couple of days later, you're like, oh no, I'm not sure I like it anymore. You lose that excitement of being in the moment. Whereas with film, you're far more objective when you get the images back, because you kind of forget the excitement, which I think is a good thing if you're trying to be critical of your own work.
But isn't that something, if there is a positive to take out of the current experience with this pandemic, it is giving us an opportunity to perhaps turn to some of those personal projects that we might not otherwise do. And I, like you, I've got certain projects where I could never use certain cameras for a commercial project, because I need to be sure to get the shots. Whereas this at the moment is give us a chance to explore our backyards, to explore different projects. Certainly, I've been engaging much more on the island of Mauritius, where I'm based, than ever before. For an island that's 65 kilometers by 45 kilometers, I thought I'd seen it all. And it's amazing how over the past year, going out exploring the island, I found things I never knew were here. And look at this beautiful photograph you captured right on your doorstep, that perhaps if we weren't in the current situation, you might not have taken that camera out and had a play.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I would have waited to go on a road trip to Scotland, or travel to South America or something. But you just make do with what you've got. And this, I think anywhere has its moment, right? Every location has its moment. You just need the right conditions. And this morning here, this is perfect, beautiful light, nice clouds, nice interest on the beach. And the same goes for any location. So being local and being able to see things every day and have the opportunity to go at a moment's notice if the correct, the right light and conditions come about. And that's a great benefit of lockdown, but still not many benefits of lockdown. It's been pretty bad.
We're getting lots of comments coming in, and we're getting lots of people saying hello. So collectively, for all of you who have said to say hello to Tom, hello.
Oh, hello.
And also one from Leon, one of our ex-photographers that is based in the Netherlands. Question: the perfect camera, a GFX 617. A digital version. So what do you think about that? If someone handed you a digital version of your GX 617?
Oh, it'd be amazing. I don't know why they don't do that. Just get 3 GFX sensors and just stick them all together.
next to
And
each
then
other.
there's your camera. What's wrong? Come on, Fuji.
How's that so difficult?
I know, it can't be that hard, can it?
Surely not. Let's have look at a couple of other photographs while we're at it. We have a warm scene, a warm weather scene.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is great. I love this photograph because it represents so much about why photography is good, or good for you, should I say. So, okay, this isn't a Fujifilm image. This was taken on Hasselblad 501cm, which is a film camera with this. It's a square, it's a 1:1 aspect ratio medium format film camera.
Hasselblad. We'll forgive you.
Yeah, it's all right. It's a nice old camera, so yeah, you should forgive me for that. But yeah, this was shot on a day where this was right in the middle of our third lockdown here. So I think this was sort of early February, perhaps, if I remember rightly, not too long ago. And it's difficult, right? We've all got I'm sure all of our mental health has been negatively affected by restrictions. Feeling like a prisoner in your own home, feeling guilty for wanting to just enjoy being outside. That's all things that I've gone through. And because I'm a professional photographer, by law, I am allowed to be out and about, but I don't. I stay home because I feel guilty. Whereas in this instance, I had to go out. I was actually on a location recce for another job I'm working on. And it's quite funny. There was no snow forecast in this area. It wasn't supposed to come this far inland. So I was trying to escape the snow, looking for locations to shoot for this film I'm working on. And I couldn't get out of the snow. And I thought, well, that's it. The day's wasted, basically. And I felt really rubbish. And then I felt really guilty because I was away from home. I shouldn't be out, lockdown and all that. But I had my camera gear in my car because, again, I was out location scouting for a job that I've been hired to do. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take some time for myself and walk around with this film camera and see what I can capture. It's beautiful snow. We don't really get snow much in the UK, a couple of days a year maybe, or certainly in England anyway. So I set about on this day with my camera, one roll of film, and I felt terrible. I felt guilty. I felt tired. I felt uninspired. I felt apathetic. But I was out and I was trying to make something of it. And I swear to God, with every click of the shutter, I felt a little bit better. I was like, oh. And then after 3 images, I'm just in the moment. I'm just looking. I'm seeing images everywhere. I'm getting really creative. I'm enjoying myself. Nobody around, middle of nowhere. And this was the last image on the roll of film. And every image got better and better and better. And every image I was having more and more fun. And all of this stress, all of this anxiety, all of this depression, and all of this guilt just evaporated with every press of the shutter. And, there are lots of people out there that say photography is good for your mental health. Being outdoors is good for your mental health. This image, this is it. This proves, for me anyway, this represents how good photography can be for you, not just physically, but mentally. And this was a fantastic day, and I don't regret for 1 second going out. I think everyone should go out as much as possible.
Really interesting. You bring up mental health, and as you said, all over the world, we're all experiencing these similar emotions, and sometimes finding this outlet and finding this inspiration through the photographs we capture can be good for your spirit, can be good for the soul, and I especially, I think, something I think about quite a lot is, my work mainly involves me traveling, obviously not so much at the moment, but do I travel for photography, or is photography what allows me to travel? I'm never entirely sure, but I know that when I'm in the middle of the desert somewhere, or when I'm in the middle of nowhere, I'm walking through a city in a country where I don't speak the language, I don't know much about the culture, and yet that's where I'll often feel most at home in that moment. And there is something about that does uplift the spirit, and perhaps us discussing mental health is something that we don't do enough, and talk about the way that the creative outlets of photography or whatever help us to cope with those challenges that we all face.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, you know. And with regards to what you just mentioned about, do you travel for photography, or is it photography that allows you to travel? That's a good one. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think before, if it wasn't for photography, I wouldn't have the confidence to travel by myself somewhere, you know. But with a camera in hand, anywhere is home, you know. It's just perfect. So yeah, very powerful thing, photography.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly find myself where, I don't know about you, but I sometimes I find myself where if I haven't got the camera, should I be there? And you know, it's certainly it's become the reason why I will go out. But anyway, that's a conversation for a different day.
Well, that's funny. I was in Namibia with my camera, and I saw people in these arid, beautiful places. Nothing there, you know, just scenery like the desert, right? And I see people, but they don't have a camera, and I'm like, why are you here? And that's so prejudiced. But I caught myself out thinking that, what is life without a camera?
Let's move on. But before we discuss the next image, I just want to quickly tackle one photograph here. How much pre-visualization? This is from Kirsten. How much pre-visualization do you do, or do you identify a new area or to head out and just see what happens? So basically, I think what she's asking is do you just go and see what you find, or do you plan out your shots in advance?
Well, you know, I think the old school way is to plan, and that's kind of what I was taught. But no, never, ever, never plan. I think planning can be good, of course, but I find that if you plan, you build up too many expectations, and then quite often you might be disappointed. Whereas if you just go, man, just go. Don't plan. Don't pre-visualize anything. Just pick an area. Don't even look at the weather forecast. Unless, of course, you know, you need a rain jacket or something, but just don't. Just let it all go and just take your camera and get out there and see what you see. Because if you plan, you might plan this big, wide vista, the beautiful shot, but you might miss all this other stuff. Whereas if you just go with no expectations and no ideas, you'll just start to see things. And then you start, so then you start getting excited. So I would say that reactive photography for me is where it's at. You know, I love the idea of planning a shot over several days, and sometimes I will find something and return to it time and time again. But I thoroughly enjoy just engaging with the landscape and just go for a walk, see what you see.
100%. I think that sentiment exactly. Go for a walk, and see what you see. And for me, that's the approach that I've most enjoyed. Often when I travel, especially if I travel to the other side of the world, I'm going to have a shot list of my must-have shots, the things that I've got to come back with. But I always allow time to just go and explore and see what we find, because absolutely some of my favorite photographs that I've ever captured are where I happen to turn a corner and bump into somebody that I never could have planned for. And that's what's become the photograph of that assignment or whatever. So plan, but just go. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a quick look again at a couple more of your photographs. Where was this taken?
This is a funny image. I don't think this is a great image, but this was taken in Nepal, and it was taken at, where was this? I forget the name of the village, but this is at 4,800 meters. So this is really high in the Nepalese mountains. This is on the way to Mount Everest. And this photograph was taken when I was on death's door. Like I had altitude sickness, and I was on a photography workshop, so I had to take the group out in the morning. I think we stayed in one of these buildings down here. I think one of those is our little tea room. And this was the hardest photograph I've ever had to take. Physically the hardest. I don't know if anybody's experienced altitude sickness, but it's like having the flu with nausea, headaches, sickness, cold chills. It's horrendous. I had to wake up after no sleep. The bedroom, or the bunkhouse at nighttime was minus 15 degrees, freezing cold. So I didn't get any sleep. I had to wake up for sunrise, take this group who they're all doing great, which is terrible when you're the leader and you're dying. And I took this group, we hiked up to this viewpoint. I think that mountain in the background is Choyu. One of the, I think, don't quote me on this, I think it's the 6th highest mountain in the world, maybe. It's up there anyway, definitely top 10. So, beautiful shot, beautiful scene. I couldn't function. I could not function at all. And I remember going through the motions of setting up this photograph. This was my XT3. And all I remember thinking was, I need to go to bed. I need to leave. So I took this photograph and then said to the group, I'm really sorry, guys, I'm going to have to go. And obviously they're all cool. They don't care. They're happy. I've been together for like 2 weeks now, so I know them all. And I walked down from this viewpoint by myself and I cried. I just wanted to go home. I've never felt so bad, so sick, so tired, so cold. And I was so dirty. We hadn't showered for 2 weeks. There's no running water. It's just awful, painful experience. But when you look back on it, that's what.
You're selling it well, by the way. You're selling us all to go to Nepal really well. We're all so excited now.
It's hard. It's hard, man. It's hard. Very hard. I was fine, up until this point, this morning. Anyway, it turns out I had to turn around and go back down because I spoke to a doctor. I was this close to severe altitude sickness. And if I'd have gone any higher, then it would have developed. But in the end, I ended up walking back down to the next village and met up with the group 2 days later. But when you walk down to a lower altitude, like imagine being really thirsty and you have a glass of water. For every sip of water you take, you feel better, right? Well, when you walk downhill with altitude sickness, for every meter you go downhill, you feel better. So after a half an hour of walking, I was like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need to go. I can go and catch them up. I feel great. And then the guides are like, no, you can't. It's because you're going downhill. I was like, oh, yeah, of course. So anyway, I walked downhill, felt $1 million and had the fantastic trip. But this photograph will forever remind me of the worst, one of the worst moments of my life. Just horrible. Yeah, there you go.
Well, look, if we're talking on the lows of the lows, let's quickly talk about a high. We have a question here from Warren that's saying, what's your favorite treat to squeeze into a cramped backpack? So you're headed off to altitude sickness inducing Nepal and you're allowed to take one little treat with you. What's that going to be? Oh my
gosh, what a question. One treat. I don't know. All right. Well, if we're camping, if we're camping or staying in tea houses and stuff, I would take a proper pillow. Like I can't sleep without a pillow. Give me a pillow over anything else. Like, well, let's already assume I have a photograph of my wife and a phone. Yeah, I would say I think the key to success in anything is a good night's sleep. So a good pillow. There you go.
A good pillow, a great answer. Listen, last couple of photographs, and then I have a couple of other topics I'd like to challenge you with. But what are we seeing here?
All right, this is a great example of it is never over until it's over. This again is Nepal, same trip. This was taken. I mentioned I walked back down from that village to a lower altitude. Well, this was the next day. And I'm feeling brilliant, right? So I'm going out with my camera at sunset, I believe, yes. And in front of me is
the most. You had a great night's sleep. You've got your pillow out.
Got my pillow, yeah.
And now you're feeling great.
Yeah, so I think this is great. I'm going to go out and take some pictures. So I go for a little hike by myself, which is nice because normally I'm with Sherpas and with the group and everything. But this morning I'm all alone, or this evening I'm all alone. So I'll go for a nice little walk. And I'm looking for a mountain called Ama Dablam, which is the most iconic mountain in the Mount Everest region. I mean, yes, of course, Mount Everest is iconic because it's Mount Everest, but Ama Dablam is like that. It's just, oh my God, as soon as you see it, it's like, what is that? It's the most perfect mountain. And I've been wanting to get a photograph of it for weeks, like the whole trek. As soon as you start trekking, you can see the mountain. but I hadn't had an opportunity to get a decent shot of it. And I knew that it was there across the valley. It's completely covered in cloud, shrouded in cloud. And I was like, oh man, I know it's there. I know it's there. So I'm just going to wait. And I waited and waited and waited and waited. And I had my camera roughly trained in the right direction. And then the clouds, just for a split second, the clouds just parted. And I could see the tip of Ama de Blam. And the last of the light was just starting to hit the top of it. So we've got a nice bit of pink, warmish light on the tip. And then just this window opened up in the clouds. And it gave me enough time to just lock my focus, get the shot. And yeah, it's just, and I just love this photograph. It's, you know, it's nice and simple and minimal, and there's clear of all distractions. And then it was gone. So yeah, this is a great picture.
Sometimes I feel like the universe rewards us for our patience and our effort, where we go out and we see that spot and we wait and we wait and we wait. And sometimes the universe just decides, yes, I'm going to give it to you just for a split second. So you better be quick, but I'm going to give it to you. And this is one of those photographs, is it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But, you know, it's like the harder you work, the more lucky you get. So, yeah, this was it. This was one. And then I turned around and Mount Everest opened up as well, which was fantastic. So I had a day that looked like it was going nowhere to, a fantastic few minutes of light and visibility.
Okay, last photograph, and a beautiful one to end with.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite places to go. This is the Lake District National Park here in the UK. A lovely little area of mountains and lakes. And this was photographed with the X-T4. And for the first time in a long time, I decided to go ultra lightweight and go out with one lens, no tripod, and just see what I could see. And to my surprise, I found the benefits of this approach were phenomenal. So I did this massive hike. It's called the Mosedale Horseshoe, and I think it's about 10 or 11 miles, big horseshoe, and it's high. There's a lot of altitude gain, but the views were phenomenal, but the weather was terrible. But as you know, as a photographer, bad weather is good for photography. So we've got these rain showers blowing in, the winds howling. But the beauty of it is I never stopped. I didn't stop. Just like the answer to that question before about, do you pre-visualize your shots or do you just practice reactive photography? Well, this is reactive photography at its best. Go for a walk, see what you see. And that's exactly what I did here. And the light and the images that I was able to get with the X-T4, which has got the stabilized sensor coupled with the stabilized lens. Oh man, I was just like, I shot about 20 of these types of images. I've got loads. It's just such a good day. Great light, great views, great weather, nice little lightweight camera. So this was one of those days where I just had a big smile on my face for the entire day. This was the best day I had last year. The best day, like by far. Such a good day.
And that was, so you just had the X-T4. Do you remember what lens you were using?
Yeah, it was wait, what's that? What? Oh, gosh, I've got so many different lenses. I can't remember. Yeah, the zoom, the long range zoom lens, the 80 to 200, 80 to 200 maybe.
Okay.
Is that it? I can't remember. I'm not good with gear. I just
but isn't that the way? Because I do think sometimes there's
55 to 200. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
55 to 200.
But that's the thing is, I do feel that sometimes in modern digital photography, we perhaps have got too caught up with the technical specifications, with the fancy gizmos and buttons and doodahs and everything, and we've forgotten those days where we just keep it simple, where we go out and we don't even know what lens we've got on the camera to a degree, but we're just shooting for the experience of shooting. And I think, especially a situation like this where it's raining, I can see the rain on the water there and the rain in the background, and having that stabilized camera, the stabilized lens, the weather sealing, which makes a big difference to where I was in the past, when the moment any rain came, I was busy tucking my cameras away and covering everything over. So I think now we've got that opportunity to just grab gear and go, and not worry so much about what the weather throws us or whatever. But perhaps we've got to step back from the technology of it so much and just go out and shoot.
Yeah, I'm useless. Like I'm working on a film at the minute, and my role is basically to find scenes like I would with my photography, right? I've got to find subjects and locations, and instead of taking a picture, I've got to take like a 30-second clip of film. It's dead simple, right? But this is a proper production, and there are rules and regulations and all the roll numbers and the time codes and everything. All this stuff has to be like, there's a system, and I don't fit into that system. And I'm just like, no, I'm just about the image. I'll just give me a camera, and I'm just going to go and point at what looks good. But I've got to be mindful of all this technology and all of these technicalities, which I'm not great with. Like, you asked me what lens, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't care. Not in a bad way, but it's not about the gear and the lens, and it's about the image. And I have every confidence that the gear I've got's good, or I wouldn't have it. But after that excitement of a new lens and a new camera, that disappears instantly. So then it's just a camera and a lens. So yeah, I'm not very good with the technical. I get excited by the creating the image rather than that technical stuff. I'm just not very good at it.
It's the process and the end results which interest you.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Now, we talked a bit about photography, but I'm interested in your experiences with your YouTube channel. And for those of you who haven't seen, I'm not sure there are many. Tom has a very popular YouTube channel, and one thing I saw on your channel is you're busy outfitting your van at the moment.
Oh yeah, yes.
What's it about?
Well, I always had a camper van. I've had one for about 3 or 4 years because it's such a great tool. You can take it out into the wilderness or wherever, and international parks, and you can park up on location. As a landscape photographer, that's great because it gives you ultimate flexibility. You don't have to book hotels, and you don't have to worry about the weather. So you can just turn up, park at the trailhead, wake up in the morning, and you're there, right? It's unbelievable. And of course, during the day, you can hide away and make a cup of tea and dinner and get your laptop out. So yeah, and I sold my camper van last year because it kept getting stuck in the snow and it wasn't very capable. There were a lot of places I couldn't go in that van because it wouldn't make it. So I thought I'd just get myself something that's 4-wheel drive and something a bit cheaper and a bit more rugged. So I don't mind bashing it up a bit, the other one was a bit too fancy. So anyway, I bought this old van. I imported it from Japan, and I've been converting it into a camper over the past few months because we're in lockdown and I've got nothing else to do. So I thought, yeah, I'll do this as a little project, put it on YouTube, and it's great. Again, it's just, as a photographer, it's a luxury. Don't get me wrong, of course it is. But if you could figure out a way to get yourself a mobile little hub, it doesn't have to be fancy, just maybe a car where the seats in the back lay flat so you can sleep at night. Just have that freedom and flexibility to just be able to react and go anywhere and follow the weather and sleep on location. Yeah, it's perfect. I'd recommend it to everybody.
And something that certainly, again, the experience of the past year or so has done is it's redefining what travel means to us. Certainly for me, travel was always getting on an aeroplane and going to the other side of the world. And I was averaging 15, 16 countries a year pre-COVID. Now we're having to reimagine what travel means. And I think there's a big resurgence in slower travel, in exploring local, staying more local. And there's a huge resurgence or a huge interest in van life, going out, taking a van out and spending time, and that's your base for the time, because you can go and explore wherever you like. And I imagine the response has been good on YouTube, where people are commenting on following your journey of kitting out your van.
Oh yeah, it's been very popular, which is quite depressing that the van videos get more views than my photography videos. But hey, that's life. That's the algorithm for you. But yeah, I mean, just any location where you can be flexible. Like, there's nothing worse than going somewhere on a photography trip and booking maybe 2 nights in a hotel before you move on somewhere else, and you realize that, oh man, I want to stay here and explore more. I want to slow down. I hate traveling from A to B to C. I just want to see what happens. Well, having a van allows you to do that. If somewhere's good, you can stay as long as you want. If somewhere's not that good, you can just leave. So it's that freedom and flexibility. And I think with photography, yeah, slowing down, just exploring and getting to know an area is it's good. It's not always practical. Like if we travel to South America, you want to see it all, and you've only got a week to do it in. But yeah, maybe if you can somehow build flexibility and more time into your travels, it's fantastic.
Now, as your YouTube channel has taken off, has there been a clash between those two sides? For example, are you a YouTuber who takes photographs, or are you a photographer who makes YouTube videos?
I always said I was a photographer who uses YouTube to promote my photography. But that's probably changed now, because the focus is always the video, the content. I try to never let it get in the way of my images. The end image is always the most important thing. But there's no denying it that I film everything. So yeah, without YouTube, I wouldn't be where I am today. So yeah, I'd say I'm a landscape photographer that uses YouTube. I don't know. It's a tricky one. But I've been doing landscape photography longer than YouTube, so there is that. But either way, I don't mind. It's all creative. Making those YouTube videos is so much fun, and equally as creative as taking a photograph.
And I'm interested. One, perhaps a tricky question I'm going to throw at you, but if you could time travel, if you could go back in time to when you first picked up a camera to capture a photograph, or when you first picked up a camera to capture a YouTube video, is there any advice that you would give yourself? What do you know now that you wish you knew back then?
I wish, like, if you're going to do it, like do it, go all out, right? Make videos as if you have an audience of 1 million people. Make them as best as you possibly can. Buy the best gear. Buy the best gear. This is, I suppose, for photography and for filmmaking, but invest in yourself. So buy the best possible gear you can to make the best quality videos and take the best quality photographs you can, because consistency is key. I look back at my earlier videos and they're just terrible. And I wish I'd have seen the potential. I wish I'd believed in myself. If I'd have believed in myself and saw the true potential, I would have put more effort in early on. It wasn't until I started seeing things grow I was like, oh, maybe I should put more effort into these videos. Maybe I should upload regularly. Maybe I should actually think about what I'm making and what I'm photographing and what I'm teaching. So, that's what I would say. Make content that is future-proof. So make it for an audience 5 years from now, and just treat every video as you mean to go on, and every video as if you have 1 million followers. And like every image is worth $1 million, $1 million print or whatever. So just do the best you possibly can, and start as you need to go on.
Of approaching it as though you've got that huge audience, whether that's a YouTube audience, whether that's a photographic audience. But I really like that idea of future-proofing by making the best you can now, because you're creating that bank of work that 5 years from now, once you've built your audience who are going to go back and look at your back history, that back history is the best that you could make it be. I think that's
every video has to be for 5 years from now. Every video. So when I make a video now, that's why I don't really do gear videos. Occasionally I'll touch on gear and I might make a gear video here and there, but I generally don't, because it won't be relevant in 6 months, let alone 6 years. And if you just think, like, okay, you make this video, you put it on YouTube. What happens if you grow and get 100,000 or 500,000 subscribers in a few years? They're going to go back and they're going to watch that back catalog. It has to be good. You've got to just have that mindset of that you have 1 million followers. Because yeah, my first like 20 videos, they're just terrible. And when people say, "Oh, Tom, I'm going to go and watch your back catalog," I'm like, "No, please don't." But that, the views, like it's every video is an investment. It might not get 100,000 views in the first 2 years, but it's there and it will consistently get watched. So it has to be good. So that's the advice I would give to myself, is try harder at the beginning. Not, I only started trying hard when I realized it was going somewhere, which is the wrong way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, Tom, thank you so much for our chat today. It's been really insightful and I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you to everybody that has commented. We've had lots of hi Toms, we've had lots of questions, and so I think that the advice that you've given has been very valuable. So thank you very much.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. It really has. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, well, that was our conversation with Tom Heaton. And remember, every week we're here, Monday evening. Now, next week, my guest is Andrea Oliveira, who's a Venice-based landscape photographer, educator, and musician. And we're going to be exploring his vision of Italy. So I'm excited to chat with him next week. But for now, thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I'll see you next time.